Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and we got another story here for you in our local paper. And I need to comment on this before you listen to the story. This is bull crap, man. You guys all know, or most of you guys know. I'm 51. I'm from the 80s. I was in high school. I smoked pot. I freaking sold pot small time. You know, and I drank too. Pot, marijuana is way safer than alcohol. Alcohol, oh my God, I had to quit. I am an alcoholic. I almost had 4 drunk drivings up there. Man, way worse. I can't believe I didn't kill anybody. Pot, never had a problem. This prick right here, Sheriff Bill Prummell, wants to keep it illegal because, like a Nixon advisor finally admitted, when Nixon started the war on drugs, it was an excuse to have a war on you. If you were one of the dissenting people, it was the college people back then, and actually many blacks, they knew that if they get in for something small kind of drug, they can put the dissenter away. I'm a dissenter. What are you? Are you a sheep? This is bull crap, man. This insanity has got to stop. Every time you make something illegal, which pretty much everything is illegal and you are not free right now as we speak, gives them another excuse to F with you, to arrest you, to violate your rights. No victim, no crime. This is nuts. Stop the freaking war. This freaking mother prick dick corrupt ass bastard, Bill Prummell, 5 people are dead in jail since he's been in office. Nobody's had that many people die while they're in office in that amount of time. Nobody. No outside investigation. 4 sheriffs fired. And nobody did time in jail. Nobody did over a misdemeanor charge, so they still have their badge. They can still get another job. This place is so corrupt. That's why I started Charlotte County COPWATCH three plus years ago. And that's why we're already at, I believe we're going to hit 41 million views, 39,000 subscribers, over 3 million views a month again, because people are sick of the freaking tyranny. You want to know how bad it is? If we took that whole book of and I've heard the book here in Charlotte County is literally the size of a freaking large dictionary from years ago. That if we follow this prick right here, he's freaking out, man, because if he loses, we're going to do a full audit, and if we find out there's corruption, we're going to put him in the same jail that the people that he was running died in. I just had somebody on YouTube contact me and said, yes, one of my dad was one of the ones that died in there. We got stories coming to us all the time. This crap has got to stop. You saw the video yesterday. We confronted Bill Prummell. In fact, I'm going to attach it. Bill Prummell has somebody working there at the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office called Susan Edwards, intelligence analyst. Anybody, my patriot friends and me, anybody that questions Charlotte County government and or sheriff on corruption is being investigated by Susan Edwards, intelligence analyst. It's in the David system illegally, and she's putting it under criminal investigation. My friend asked him to his face with a camera, what is going on with this? What happened to America? Free speech. And this arrogant bastard would not answer and literally pushed him out of the way. And that's, we're not free. This is a freaking Nazi military police state, man. So wake up, sheep. This crap has got to stop. This guy needs to be voted out of office and put in jail. Period. Freaking keep marijuana illegal. He's putting people in jail for a freaking a bowl. There's not even weed in the bowl. He's putting people in jail for 2 joints. 2 freaking joints. Are you kidding me? In the 80s, cop would have took it home and freaking smoked it. This is a joke. This is another reason to destroy you, your life, your family's life. Then you got court fines. Then you got jail costs. Then you got probation costs. This is you are the new industry in Florida, man. Okay, there's visitors visiting Florida. We have no industry. So you are in the industry. It's called cops, sheriffs, jails, and courts. That is sick. You are supposed to be a free country. Damn it, wake up. What the F?
Clear Divide. On Medical Marijuana. By Lauren Coffey. Staff writer. Proponents of medical marijuana in Florida are back at it. The divisive amendment to the state constitution makes its second appearance on the ballot after a narrow defeat in 2014. 57% of voters approved it, but a supermajority of 60% was needed to pass the amendment. Ben Pilara, campaign manager for United for Care, say they've done what it takes to get the vote this time around. There's a sense statewide, number one, that it's going to happen, Pilara, who has campaigned since 2013, said. And, no. 2, it's just not as big of a deal this time. There's only so much you can say about it at this point. Florida pollster Doug Kaplan believes a multitude of factors will bring Amendment 2 to the state constitution post-November. A younger demographic tends to vote more in a presidential election, he said. And every year the attitude for marijuana goes more pro. Same with gay marriage, it becomes legal in a few states and then others see that they aren't falling apart. He predicted it would get roughly 58 to 63% of the vote, but Kaplan believes the vote will reach the supermajority this time around. Marijuana Pipe 11. There is no state in the union that is more ready for this industry than this state. Florida Attorney John Morgan. We should not be voting on medicine. We've never voted on medicine in the past. Charlotte County Sheriff Bill Prummell. WHO is for/against medical marijuana? Marijuana. From page 1. There are multiple factors for success in passing it, and the opposition for it isn't that big, he said. Kaplan added John Morgan, head of the United for Care organization and the largest proponent for Amendment 2 passing, made some key choices on grappling with gaining votes. I think Morgan learned his lesson and focused less on him versus the sheriff, Kaplan said. He's become less of a lightning rod and more of a grassroots effort. Pilara added his colleague Morgan did agree to step back for a multitude of reasons. He said he recognizes it might have been too much about him and not about the sick and suffering people who could benefit from this, he said. But also since the last election he's become a grandfather twice over. He's turned 60. He's at a different place in his life. But the Drug-Free Florida Committee, a super PAC otherwise known as Vote No on Amendment 2, believes polls can be misleading, as they were in 2014. In 2014 it was pulling 70–80% and we're seeing the same numbers in 2016, Christina Johnson, spokesperson for Vote No on 2, said. We think with our education campaign the voters are paying attention to it and we find a lot of people against Amendment 2. Many projections, such as a May 2014 Quinnipiac poll, stated about 88% of Floridians approved of Amendment 2. But as the months wore on to November, support slipped and the amendment ended at the polls with 57%. According to the latest Gallup poll, 60% of adults in the U.S. think marijuana should be legalized. When it comes to Florida, the latest poll was in June 2016 at 80% approval rate. Florida is joining Arkansas and North Dakota to put legalizing medicinal marijuana on the election ballot. 25 states and Washington, D.C., currently allow medical marijuana. Drug-Free Florida found many loopholes in the original 2014 amendment that caused concern. United for Care changed some of the language when it was reintroduced, including requiring minors to have parental consent and further defines what is a debilitating disease. It also added language to ensure doctors would not be immune to malpractice lawsuits and limited the number of patients a caregiver can treat with marijuana. However, for some it still is not enough. Marijuana is not regulated by the FDA and it is not prescribed by a doctor. The way the proposed system is set, a doctor could recommend a patient for medicinal marijuana, they cannot technically prescribe it, since it is a level 1 narcotic, according to the Obama administration. The patient would then go to a dispensary where the worker would give them the necessary dosage. But it's the dispensaries, or bud tenders, that pose a real problem. Johnson said. "You're taking it to someone with no medical experience," she said. "If you take Tylenol, you know how much to take. A bud tender could give you a low amount, high, little or a lot. And children are a key contention point with many voters," Kaplan said. "More women are going to the polls, so it will more than likely be close," he said. Because of the kids and family issues versus men, who were polled much more likely to vote to approve it. The new amendment allows for edible forms of marijuana to be considered medicinal, something opponents are concerned will include candy-looking substances such as gummy worms and lollipops. However, Polaris said this is no different from having any other substances within a household. "This is not an interpretation of law, it's a dystopian fantasy of what the law will bring if kids get candy accidentally," Polaris, who has 2 children of his own, said. "If kids get the candy accidentally, it's a pretty big failure of parenting. There are 50 things under my kitchen sink that could kill me, let alone my child. You lock it up, it's parenting 101. Despite the back and forth from both sides of the aisle, Governor Rick Scott has already put some form of medicinal marijuana in place. The Compassionate Medical Cannabis Act was passed in June 2014 and allows people who are suffering certain illnesses to use marijuana with low amounts of THC to alleviate pain. THC is the element in marijuana that causes hallucinogenic effects. And in March 2016, the regulations grew as Scott expanded the Right to Try Act. "We can finally deliver on the promise we made to those suffering families 2 years ago. The delays are over," Fleming Island Republican Senator Rob Bradley said in a press release shortly after the decision. "I appreciate Governor Scott's support of the bill, and his staff's help in making the bill better as it moved through the process. Despite the current amendment proposal spelling out specific ailments a person would need to qualify for a medicinal marijuana recommendation, those opposed to Amendment 2 believe the language is vague enough for abuse. There was some change to the language in 2016, but it doesn't solve all the problems," Johnson said. "It says debilitating conditions, but you can still open it up to anyone." And Polaris said the current laws in place aren't medical marijuana laws at all. "I would argue Florida doesn't have a medical marijuana law," he said. "You have a type of law that allows for marijuana extraction with low amounts of THC, but it benefits a relatively narrow slice of people that need help." While state officials are each cautiously optimistic their side will win out, local officials are preparing for what would happen should Amendment 2 pass. Charlotte County Commissioners have moved forward on addressing dispensaries should they come to the area. Commissioners were unanimous in their concern about placing the dispensaries far enough away from churches and schools, but also tried to increase the fine should someone be caught with marijuana from $500 to $1,000. City Attorney Jeanette Knowlton advised otherwise because it is a state-mandated issue. And the Northport Planning and Zoning Advisory Board is taking actions of its own. On October 20th, its members met to discuss zoning the city for the dispensaries that would come with Scott's new act. Michelle Norton, Northport Planning Manager, said the proposed changes will not address Amendment 2 and should it pass, the city would work to ensure code falls in line with the new amendment. "We need to address what's been approved and have regulations in the event someone would address the issue in Northport," Norton said. "Any further changes in legislation, we would have to amend the ordinance." But other officials are focusing on stopping Amendment 2 from moving forward. Charlotte County Sheriff Bill Prummell is one of the more outspoken law enforcement officials against Amendment 2. Number 1. We should not be voting on medicine. "We've never voted on medicine in the past," said Prummell, who has been opposed to the bill since 2014. Number 2. This is something that does not belong on the state constitution or any constitution. You can put regulations to change it, but at some point someone may challenge the constitutionality of that law and it can be thrown out. Nothing is guaranteed. He added legalizing medicinal marijuana could cause a slew of law enforcement problems, including robberies at the dispensaries since they only take cash payments, and driving under the influence of marijuana. Basically what we found out from talking to officials in other states is they said this will never pass, so they didn't do anything about it, he said. Next thing they know it passes and they're still dealing from repercussions. However, he is less sure than others who oppose the bill that it will pass this time. Last time around I felt really good about it, he said. It started off with a high percentage of people for it, but when we started going out and educating people it turned it around and we just edged it out. This time around I know there's a lot more people educated from our efforts in 2014. But I honestly don't know, I can't gauge it this time around. Email, lecoffee@sun-herald.com.
Join the fair. Okay. Excuse me. Excuse you? Excuse me, sorry.
So those of you that haven't been on a bike before, what you're doing now is
You
the
work
hardest
for
part.
us, Sheriff.
And keep
Keep that in
upright.
mind. At one time we respected you, but not with that type of attitude.